Welcome back to the What the Futures podcast. I am in Brandon, Manitoba for Manitoba Egg Days. And I thought, why not get a great background here with this brand spanking new John Deere combine. Of course, John Deere being a sponsor of the What the Futures podcast, we appreciate their support. This is a bit of a off the cuff episode, part of the Lunch Pail crew series here, and I'll talk about that more in a second. But just an opportunity to get something out, and we'll see what happens here. It's still quiet at the show. It's bright and early. It's a little bit after 8 a.m. on the second day of the show, so you know how it goes, right? I wasn't the only one in Browns last night until midnight, closing it up. There were certainly other people there, and people going well into the night compared to me. So it's going to be a little quiet here, hopefully, but we'll see who pops by as well. All right, today's episode is a little bit of an additional one. The Lunch Pail crew is something that you'll become more familiar with as the days and months go by. But it's episodes that I view as key to decision making on your farm here in 2024 and beyond. So if you see something or in the title where it says Lunch Pail crew, it's probably or hopefully there's some good nuggets in there that you can take away from, and things that will help you make your crop marketing decisions here in 2024 and beyond. So this episode, I'm going to talk about not the usual stuff. This is a bonus episode. So I'm going to talk about my crop power rankings. I'm going to encourage you to do this on your own as well. I'm going to go over some quick acreage guesses, increases, decreases in acreage, price implications. I'm going to do my best here to give you the price, my idea on where price is going on, 4 or 5 of these crops, and what's going to look strong, what's going to look weak, maybe what's the strongest crop going to look like in my opinion, what's the weakest, and then I've got a Captain Obvious prediction, and I've got my bold prediction of 2024. Now we know in 2023 it's behind us now, so we know that we had obviously a drought in the spring across the prairies, many farms experiencing a drought, and it had a big impact on crop prices. So crop prices, we had that decline into May, late May, early June. And then from there, we saw a significant rally, canola reaching its high again. That was established back in like January, and then again in July. And then, of course, that rally we had later in the summer as well, leading into harvest. It was a year where prices were on the decline, but then a drought came in and changed that narrative, at least temporarily. From there, of course, prices peak early in harvest, late summer, early harvest, and it's on the decline from there. So I guess I should put a little bit of a caveat in here, or a little bit of a warning that these guesses are purely guesses. And, maybe there's some research behind them. Maybe there's some history behind them. But at the end of the day, lots of different things can happen, especially from a geopolitical standpoint. You can see it's very tense across the world. Lots of tension points, lots of hot spots, and those can have impacts and big impacts on crop marketing and your crop prices. So, you look at Russia and Ukraine. It was, and I hate to say it like this, but it was a little bit quieter, at least in the news cycle, when it came to updates on the invasion of Ukraine, or the war in Ukraine. I don't expect it to be that quiet in 2024. And I know there's people there fighting on the front lines every day. So to say that it was quiet is not fair and, not right. But from a news cycle perspective, it certainly made its way back out a little bit out of the headlines. Of course, there's the tension between Taiwan and China, and potential implications with the U.S. There's everything going on in the Red Sea right now, and in the Middle East over there. Again, that maybe impacts crude and things like that instead, but it certainly can circle back. You can look at our big impact container freight right now is doubled. The cost has doubled here in the last couple of weeks. And so if you're putting, lentils or peas or whatever in a container, freight cost is substantially more now, and that comes out of price. It traditionally does. So lots of different things can happen. So take this with a grain of salt. Maybe, maybe you can get some information from here, debate it at the curling club later on this week, or get together with your buddies for coffee in the shop or a beer or whatever, and chat about it and chat it over. And well, we'll see where I'm right, where I'm dead wrong. And I would say, generally speaking, I don't expect to be that accurate. And if I am, it's a bit of luck on my side there. Okay. All right. So let's start off here. Let's do power rankings. And I'm just going to use, it's hard to do power rankings for the prairies, and just because of the different soil zones. And I know Left Field Commodities, their report before Christmas was fantastic. They do a really good job with the different soil zones and different prices. But essentially, from the top end of your crop power rankings, if it's green, it's good. Like it's at the top. If it's a green lentils, small, medium green lentils. If it's a green pea, those are at the higher end of the range. Okay, I'm going to use like Saskatoon as my point. I've got 15 different crops on here as well, and I'll just kind of use Saskatoon as a baseline here at this time. I don't have in here any lentils, and so lentils all score very, very well, and greens being at the higher end. But I've got a few different classes of wheat. I've got a couple malt and feed barley. I've got a bunch of others. So um, we'll see if this helps out at all. Now I use kind of Saskatoon as a zone. Now part of my calculation is I've got yield, which is a variable for each farm. I've got price, which is my best guess at where you take your entire crop year, the crop year in 2024, you're going to sell it in 10, 15, 20 different ways. And where are you going to end up with? What you'll end up with is your average price. I'm trying to guess that average price. Okay. So I'm not trying to pick the high of the market. I'm not trying to pick the low of the market. I'm trying to figure out your average price through all of this. So that's where it gets really, really tricky. From there, you've got your price of seed. Again, is it going to be certified seed or whatever? That's a variable. You've got your fertilizer budgets. They're all variables here, folks. Chem budget I've got in here as well. It's probably a little bit closer. And then I've got an insurance budget as well. And that comes together to make me a gross margin. And then I rank your gross margins from there. All right. Let's start off here. Number one in my crop rankings. And actually, before I go any further, I'm just going to switch screens here real quick. I've got Chuck's numbers. I just wanted to see his red lentil number because yeah, it scores very, very high in the dark brown soil zone. And in the brown soil zone, it's kind of middle of the pack there. So I didn't have red lentils in here. So I wanted to just throw that out there. All right, number one crop that I've got, again, I'm going to use Saskatoon as my area. I've got maple peas in the number one spot, and I'm using for a price. This might be just a touch high right now, but I'm going to put $18 in there because there isn't much seed availability, and obviously there was not much grown here in 2023. And it is leaps and bounds better than the number two crop. So even if I want to lower it to $17, even if I want to lower my yield down a little bit, I've got maple peas in the number one spot, bringing in $480 an acre of gross margin. From that number, you would subtract your overhead. So if it's going to be $200 an acre of equipment, land, all your professional fees, everything. Most farms right now, I would budget $250 an acre to $300 an acre, depending on what you've done with equipment and land lately. But $300 an acre doesn't surprise me if that's your number. If it's lower than that, you've just leaned up a little bit and you're lean and mean in 2024. So that's at my number one spot. My number two spot I've got actually still oats hanging in here. It's been a battle between oats and green peas. I made some adjustments here this morning, using $5 as my number. And I've also got oats as like my safe crop to grow in 2024 from a price perspective. So they come in at $347 an acre. And again, it's been a bit of a battle here because green peas are $13 or $14. So if you take that number and sell all your crop, that would be your number two crop. But oats, I view oats as a crop that's going to be very forgiving in 2024 from a price perspective. And the reason I think that is the price is not high enough to get a bunch of acres bought. So if you're like a new oat grower or you're on the sidelines for the last couple of years, the price isn't high enough at $5 to have you jump in and say, yes, I want to grow more oats. But the traditional oat growers are looking at that and saying, "Hey, I can make some good money at that. I'm going to lock in some five-ish and 550 and move on." And I do think you can add yield onto this. I'm using 105, and I do think you can add to price. I'm using $5, and I think you'll have multiple chances to price it over $5 a bushel. So oats is kind of my safe play here in 2024. In the three spot, that's where I've got my green peas coming in. I'm using $12 a bushel as my price. Again, you bump that up to like the 13s or the 14s that are out there, and it puts you at $370 an acre at $13, 415 at $14, and again, great potential in those green peas. Now, seed availability, we know green pea acres are going to climb. How much we will see. Specifically here, it just if you have been sitting on the sidelines with green peas, you might be entering the space now. So acres are definitely on the rise here. From there, in my number four spot, I'm going to switch over to specialty canola. Now, I'm seeing some decent premiums out there. So this could be like a Nexera canola, could be one of the Cargill specialty canolas. Um, we're seeing some decent premiums across those specialty canolas, so that's why they're rising. Now, there's variables in here in the cost of seed. So I've got it in the four spot at $321 an acre. But if you went with like a Pioneer seed and you went with like a Clearfield, well, you might come in at $70 an acre and a premium of $1 a bushel over the market. That certainly changes the numbers in a big way. If you went with like a Cargill canola, it might come in at like $110 an acre of seed cost and a premium of a couple bucks a bushel, and then so on and so forth. So this is a bit of a wild one. But what I would highlight here is if you're looking to, maybe not mix it up a whole bunch in 2024, but make some slight tweaks and looking at trying to capture some extra margin. This is one area you could at least research and take a look at. Now, my caveat here is that canola, regular canola, is right behind it. Okay, at $312 an acre. Um, so it 320, 312, same difference. And I'll just let you do the homework on that and see what you want to do. Number five, I've got actually malt barley now coming in at $318 an acre. I'm using 650 as a price. Those are the prices I've seen here posted in Alberta and portions of Saskatchewan. I actually think the malt barley price could climb to that seven price as well. I think I'm being a little bit negative here at 650. I think that number could be a little bit higher, but with feed barley falling apart, it's hard to justify a much larger spread. I'm using a $1.25 right now, which is certainly wider than usual, and but falls in line with what we're seeing today for the most part. Not too far, maybe a little bit more aggressive, and we'll see. Like if you could bump that up to seven, it could go all the way to $350 an acre, and that would certainly climb it to that in the top three of crop rankings. Malt barley, I wasn't a huge fan of a few weeks ago, but it is getting a little bit rosier, and maybe because wheat prices have come down and things like that. You're not going to like my wheat price here in a moment. So in the number 5 spot, I've got malt barley. From there is canola. Okay, so $312 an acre. I'm using 13.50 as my price, which you might fall off your chair when you see that, but or hear that. But you're seeing a decline of in oilseed values. Um, decline that started back in 2022. I know some believe that canola acres are on the decline, but I'm going to be a bit of a contrarian to that. I think that canola acres are going to be up slightly here in 2024, but it's nothing where you have to sit here and say everyone's planting canola. I need to go and market it. It's just more about the economics of canola looking good, and I believe we're going to have a change in weather pattern that evolves, and a change in weather pattern that provides more moisture events. So, if it stays dry in the southern parts of the prairies, canola acres will come out. It's an expensive crop to grow, so that might change things a little bit. But as you travel to central and northern parts of the prairies, every canola acre that can go in my opinion, will go in. And you'll see why here in just a few moments when we start looking at wheat prices. But in my number 6 spot, $312 an acre, I've got canola. Now, again, I'm using my guess on average price um, when it comes to these markets. So, is your average going to be 13.50 across your farm in 2024 on your canola? Well, hopefully that number's 15 or 16 or higher. But I'm going to use 13.50. I also think that that will be our price around Christmas time as well, 13 to 13.50. Um, I think there's a bottom closer to 12 yet, but I do think 13.50 is a pretty safe bet here. And hopefully we can do a bit better than that from a marketing perspective. Okay, now here's where things get a little bit dicey. So my top 6 crops right now, if we want to just summarize them, I've got maple peas, oats, green peas. Um, I've got sorry, from the green peas now, we switch over to that specialty canola. Um, for specialty canola, we got malt barley and then regular canola. Those are our top 6. Everything's north of 300 bucks an acre. So if your overhead is $300 an acre, you're making just a little bit of profit on some of these crops. Of course, maples and oats are certainly much better, but you're making positive margin here. You're paying your overhead, paying all your land and equipment, and you got a little bit extra cash to head to Mexico. So this is all good. Now, when we get to the 7th spot, and we got to go from 7 all the way down to about 15 here, that's where we start to get into potentially some negative margin for farms. Now, again, I don't know your overhead number. So I've got soft white right now sitting at the number 7 spot at $292 an acre. Well, if your overhead's 250 bucks, you're still making some decent money there. So I've got soft white leading my wheat classes right now, which I'm not 100% comfortable with um, per se. But I've got a 750 in there from a price perspective, which I think is very safe. And soft white can yield a little bit better here at times as well. So I've got a little bit of a bump here in yield, and it's priced at 750. Um, I'm not going to talk a bunch about soft white because it's a bit of a niche crop. But anyways, $292 an acre. From there, I'm going to move over to Durham. Now, Durham, I'm using 10 bucks as my average price. Durham acres are going to climb here in 2024. Um, I've got a 50 bushel crop in here right now as well. I've scaled back my fertilizer here just a little bit too, but coming in at $271 an acre. And I'm not an expert in Durham, so you might be listening and you can say, Ryan, you're out to lunch. So reach out to the show. Let me know what your real numbers are on Durham, and I'll see if I can switch that in crop rankings here in these power rankings. But at the end of the day, still a fairly positive crop at 271 bucks an acre, higher acres, and we'll see where that goes. Number 9, I've got yellow peas, and you may shout from your chair saying, Ryan, yellow peas are a lot better than the 9 spot. Look at new crop prices. Well, hey, are you going to sell all your yellow peas at $10 and $11 a bushel? Is India going to keep buying these yellow peas from us for new crop. Because if we go back to traditional, history here, if India steps out, then we're back waiting for China to buy all of our yellow peas. And that situation isn't actually that bullish when you start to peel away some of these layers. So I'm going to use 9. And again, if I put it at 10, it would go to north of $300 an acre, $308 an acre, um, and it would move to number 7. But if I use 9, it's $258 an acre. In the 9 spot is my yellow peas. Now, will yellow pea acres climb into 2024? Um, I think they have a chance to. Maybe, well, certainly not as much as looking at like a green pea, but peas in general are looking a little bit friendly. Um, Maples, greens will climb as much as they can, and yellows may climb just a little bit, but disease root rot is a concern out there. And honestly, growers are frustrated with how peas have performed here lately. And if you think about it, if we're going back to just China, how is this going to play out, and can prices hold? So a little bit of a bit more risk there, I would say. Number 10, I've got my feed barley prices coming in now. I've got 525 as an average price. Barley acres on the decline across the prairies. Um, feed coming in a full $75 an acre less than malt. Now it is a crop that's good for the land, and it's a crop that is a little bit easier to manage, maybe a little less expensive to grow. But actually, I'm just looking at a number here. I've got to make a quick tweak. I've got my feed barley and malt barley seed prices a little bit swapped here. So, anyways, malt barley just dropping down to that number 6 spot at the moment. We've got live crop rankings happening on the show here, but feed barley in the 10 spot right now. And folks, I sit here with feed barley. I know it doesn't like too wet or too dry. Um, the economics don't look great unless you're maybe in southern Alberta. Um, so again, there's a lot of spots that can grow great barley crops, and prices are very strong and or better in their backyard, and it makes more sense. This is a more of a niche one. Saskatoon is really not the central zone for growing a whole bunch of barley. So if you're in Lethbridge or central Alberta, the economics look a lot better. And like I said in the last episode, you have some feed barley prices higher than malt prices right now in southern Alberta for new crops. So it's pretty easy to make that decision. All right, if I look over at number 11 here, we've got faba beans coming in, but I think with fabas, I'm using $10 as a price. I can't find a new crop faba price, so there's a bit of a wild card there. I'll try to touch on that more in future episodes. From there, in the number 12 spot is where hard red spring wheat comes in. You've been sitting here saying, "Where's spring wheat, Ryan? What's going on?" Well, I'm using $8 for 13.5 protein spring wheat, and that gets you into the number 12 spot with a negative margin. And I know that you can push some yield here and make this crop break even for you in 2024. But you also have to be very sharp on your crop marketing here in 2024, because spring wheat's in a downtrend. We are dipping below support levels here right now as recording in mid-January in Brandon, Manitoba. We are seeing a decline here in spring wheat futures, and I'm not super bullish. I believe that farms in 2024 will want to keep things simple. That's one of my predictions, is keeping it simple here, and maybe going to more of a wheat canola rotation. Or if you had 4 crops, maybe you're going to go to 3 crops. Or maybe there was a crop that specialty crop that you might work out of, or your feed barley or your oats are going to go to wheat instead. I just think spring wheat acres are going to climb here in 2024. And again, I wouldn't sit here and say spring wheat acres are climbing, I got to sell everything. Don't, certainly don't do that. Um, but when it comes to, growing a crop here, I know we produced, or sorry, planted 19.475 million acres last year. And I know that planting more than that sounds a little bit crazy because we have not planted a level that high. I don't know if ever, but if there's a year to do it, I think it could be 2024. So again, just a slight increase is what I'm looking for in spring wheat acres. Now, again, it sounds crazy because negative margin, uh, certainly market trending down. It really doesn't make a lot of sense to put in more wheat acres, except for easier to manage. Maybe you can push yield a little bit. Maybe there's a protein premium, et cetera, et cetera. But if your wheat acres on your farm are climbing in 2024, take a look. I don't mind keeping things simple, but yet I also know we need to pay the bills, and those top, 6 or 7 crops are sitting here in positive margin. Maybe there's something there that stands out. Maybe it is oats. I tell you, people are not excited about oats yet. Not in that many areas at $5. All right, so that's spring wheat. Now CPS, I've got it the same. I've got 750 as my average price for CPS wheat. Again, a bit more of a niche crop. They're tied right now. So if you're one of those farms that's growing both in central or northern Alberta, it's a saw off. All right, so I don't have any clarity there for you today. Okay, just a couple more here. 14. I actually take spring wheat and I lower the protein down to 12% to see what happens with, crop rankings. We know price goes down, but it moves it to about $200 an acre. So at the 14 spot, and then in the 15 spot, I'm picking on flax right now. Unfortunately, I really traditionally like flax, and I know it's tough to market right now, but I've got it in the 15 spot for my crops. Okay, I've got 12.50 a bushel for a price, and I believe I use the wisdom of left field commodities on that one. I shouldn't speak for him. I'm just going to double check the flax price. Yeah, he's got 12.50 in there as well. So that's where I sit now. Uh, the whole yield and price and numbers into this equation calculation, they're all variable, folks, and that's the beauty of it. There's professionals out there that have much different prices than I do. But these are my guesses. And as I get insurance values, I create a new crop ranking calculator. So we'll talk about that in the next couple weeks. And then from there, once I get a better handle on crop marketing, how we're going to sell this crop, I might update rankings again at that time. So that's the power rankings for now. If we want to look at acres, I don't think, I guess the crops that we maybe want to watch out for is, is that maple pea, like what can we get for seed and acres? Can we produce a bunch of maple peas and sink that market? That would be one of my watch outs. And the same thing goes for green peas and green lentils. Those all kind of fall in line. So you might want to be more aggressive with Act of God there. I don't think other than that, from an acres perspective, anything scares me. Now, if canola acres do climb here just a little bit in 2024, and we do carry over, again, 3 grain companies, I think I read, at over 5 million tons of carryover of canola, which is, to me, just sounds insane at this time. But, if we are going to carry over more and plant more, then that sets up a more bearish scenario. Other than some of the specialty crops and those acre swings, I don't see us, chasing any market because of acres, where we sit here today and say we got to sell because they're going to grow a whole bunch of this. I don't really see anything there that makes sense to get aggressive on. If anything, crops that you may want to slow play here a little bit to try to figure out the acres game is like a malt barley. maybe they do get to that 7 to get those acres in. Or maybe oats are another crop. Maybe they do have to get to that 550 to get people more excited about growing oats here in 2024. Um, those are crops that I would maybe slow play here just a little bit. Um, you have to be Johnny on the spot in your crop marketing plan for wheat. So if you're going to plant a bunch of spring wheat, when you get to levels of profitability, that's where Harvest Profit kicks in, or software where you're tracking your margins. When you see that positive margin on your wheat, any wheat basically on your farm, you have to figure out how to extract that and capture that, because again, we're in a downward trend, a downward market, and there's just no guarantees. Okay. All right. Have fun with it. Do your own crop rankings. If you want my calculator, I can send you a version of it, and you can take a look, play with your own numbers. I strongly encourage you do, because some of this stuff is just absolutely wild how it can change. And you should do your top 5, 10 crops for your farm, do your own power rankings, and get this sorted out. All right. Other things I wanted to talk about here. Okay, so my Captain Obvious prediction in 2024 is just wild, volatile weather. Okay, that doesn't change, in my opinion. It's not going to be just a growing season where we get moisture when we need moisture and heat when we need heat, and life's easy. Hopefully, it is for your farm. I'd love it if it was, but I expect a extreme volatile year of weather. And if it's not across the prairies, I expect to see it in the U.S., or in other parts of the world. And with that becomes opportunity. Those opportunities to price often leads to rallies and opportunities for you to price. And hopefully, it's not your backyard suffering from a drought, and you can price into these rallies. So I expect a Captain Obvious prediction is wild weather. My 2024 bold prediction from a crop marketing perspective is in 2024 in Western Canada. My bold prediction is that you will be able to buy insurance to protect yourself against a buyout on a grain contract. I'm not talking about a put. I'm not talking about calls. I'm not talking about all these fancy contracts that the grain elevators that are out there. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about going and buying insurance against a contract that you have sold. So you've sold 10,000 bushels of canola. You're worried about producing it, and there will be an opportunity. My bold prediction: an opportunity for you to go and buy insurance, so that if you're in a loss, that contract is null and void, and you don't have to worry about the buyout. Now, I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know how it's all going to look, but I know it's out there, and that's my bold prediction, that it will be available at some point here in 2024 for your farm. We'll see. Predictions are predictions, and I could be dead wrong on that as well. Alrighty. Okay. Last thing here, and I want to get this recorded real quick. The show's just kind of starting up behind me now, so we'll wrap this up. But let's stick some guesses here and where prices are going to be on Christmas Eve. Let's talk about the January bids, and I better make notes of this because I've been flip-flopping around. But the price, let's pick. What do I got here? 6 crops, 5 crops. Let's do 5 crops. So the price on Christmas Eve. So this was January delivery. Price of Christmas Eve for canola. I think I said $13.50 earlier in the episode. I'm going to say $12.90 a bushel for January delivery. That's my guess on where the price of canola will be. And I want to cross my fingers that it's there, because the soybean situation is turning a bit bearish as well. I was listening to a Rabobank podcast the other day. You should check them out. They're pretty good. But they have soybeans kind of staying the same as where it's at today for the year, but dropping by like 8% into 2025. Keep that in mind. It's their opinion on the direction of oil seeds, but keep that in mind. So canola, I'm putting down, what did I say, $12.90? January delivery, that's the price of Christmas Eve. The price of spring wheat, I'm gonna do like 7.65 a bushel on spring wheat. Even like 7.45. I'll do 7.65 on spring wheat. That's for January delivery on Christmas Eve. Um, this might be the time of the show where you want to pour yourself a cocktail because these prices, I don't have a bunch of upside in these prices. The price of oats, let's use Yorkton, and I'm going to say we're still holding at $5. Of course, January delivery will be full by then, so just bear with me. If maybe it's the next delivery point is $5. I was going to say 4.75, 4.80, but we'll say $5. The price of yellow peas via Saskatoon for January delivery. I'm gonna go down here at 8.50. Sorry, 8.25. 8.25 January delivery. Yellow peas, Saskatoon. That's the price on Christmas Eve. Green peas, I'm gonna put in $9. We grew lots of acres, big yields. I'm gonna use $9. And I'll say that's Saskatoon area as well. Folks, we are in a downtrend, and lots of things can happen. And this isn't. I'm not saying this is where you're going to sell your grain. You're going to be Johnny on the spot this year. You're going to do a great job of marketing your grain this spring and summer, and you're going to do way better than some of these prices I've talked about. But we are still in a downtrend, folks, and just keep that in mind here as you navigate your crop marketing plan in 2024. Take advantage of the rallies. Take advantage of the spikes. Make some money on your farm here this year, and there's always opportunity. Markets don't go straight down; they go up and down, and take advantage of those upswings when you see them. All right, so I've got my latest power rankings. I've got my bold prediction out there. I've got my Captain Obvious prediction. I'll talk about this even more as we get insurance levels here in the next couple of weeks. Again, this is my opinion on where the strength lies in some of these crops and some of these markets. I hope you enjoyed the Lunch Pail Crew episode, the first one. I hope you can gather some insight from it. Again, folks, seek the advice of a professional out there. You know, I'm here. Some of these guesses are wild ass guesses. So seek the advice of a professional and let them help guide you in your crop plan and crop marketing plan as well. Really cool to record in front of a beautiful X9 combine here at Manitoba Ag Days in Brandon. It's been a great first day of the show. Look forward to connecting with folks here today as well. And we had a great little event at Black Wheat Brewing last night. Look forward to many more of those. So take care, folks. I'm out.